my lovely Virgo. Prepare yourself is the phrase in the title that I want to dwell on first, before anything else, before the very soon, before the relationship, before the person, because prepare yourself is the instruction that determines whether what is coming arrives in its full form or in the partial form. That unprepared receiving tends to produce when something significant arrives without the person receiving it, having created the interior space that the significant thing needs to fully enter. Prepare yourself, not in the anxious and effortful form of someone who is frantically arranging things in anticipation of an arrival and exhausting themselves in the arranging before the arrival has even happened, to the point where they cannot be present for the arrival itself because the preparation took everything. Prepare yourself in the quiet and intentional form of someone who creates space and practices receiving and does the specific interior work that significant arrivals require to be met with the version of you that can hold what they are bringing in the fullest possible form of what they are capable of bringing when they are met correctly. Welcome. And let me tell you what the preparation looks like and who the person is and what very soon actually means in the real and specific sense of something that is genuinely close. Very soon. First, because the timing matters, and I want to give it the specific attention that makes it useful to you rather than only reassuring. Very soon is not a vague placeholder for something that might happen at some indeterminate point in the future. That could be months or years or longer, depending on conditions and choices and the particular pace at which the relevant events unfold. In your specific situation, very soon is the specific description of something that is already in motion towards you in the form of a person and a connection that are both already moving in the direction of becoming what the title is describing in the time frame that very soon implies, which is not years and not months in the distant sense, but the near form of soon, that feels proximate and already present in the energy, even before it is visible in the physical. I want to describe what already in motion means, because I think it is the most important thing to understand about the timing before we get to the preparation and the person and the specific nature of the relationship that is forming. Already in motion means that the conditions that need to be in place for this specific connection to move from wherever it currently is to the relationship the title is describing are being assembled in the real and operational dimension of the energy around both of your lives. Some of those conditions are external, circumstances arranging timing, aligning the particular configuration of events that brings two people into the proximity and the repeated contact. That produces the kind of knowing that a relationship requires to form on the solid foundation of actually knowing someone rather than only being attracted to them from the distance of insufficient contact. And some of the conditions are internal in you, which is what the Prepare Yourself is about. The internal conditions that your side of the forming relationship requires to be in place for the relationship to land in the full form it is capable of taking when both sides have done what the forming requires. Now, the person in the specific energy terms, that will allow you to recognize them when the very soon arrives and the relationship begins to form in the visible and real dimension of your actual daily life. This person has been in your awareness already in the form of someone who has registered in you as more than the ordinary persons who pass through your awareness without producing the particular impression of someone who landed in you and stayed after the encounter that produced the landing had ended. This person stays in your awareness after the encounters that are producing the awareness in a way that the ordinary people who cross your path do not stay. And the staying is not something you have deliberately chosen or engineered or produced through effort. It happens on its own as the natural result of someone who made an impression that the ordinary processing of ordinary people passing through has not been able to simply remove. In the way it removes most impressions, eventually, when enough time and enough other impressions have replaced the original one, this person has not been replaced in your awareness by the time and the other impressions that have occurred since the impression was made. They are still there in the specific location in your awareness where things stay when they are real enough to stay rather than temporary enough to pass through. The staying is the signal that this is the person. I want to describe this person more specifically in the energy terms that allow recognition, because the staying alone, while a reliable signal, is not always sufficient on its own. To distinguish the right person from someone who stayed for other reasons that are not the reasons of the right person. And I want to give you more for the recognition. This person, when you are in their presence, produces a particular quality of ease that is different from the ease of comfort or the ease of familiarity or the ease of someone who simply does not challenge you in a way that produces friction. It is the ease of someone being fully themselves in the presence of someone who they feel is also fully themselves. And the mutual full presence of two people who are not performing for each other or managing their presentation for the other's benefit or approval, but who are simply in the presence of each other as the actual versions of who they are, produces a specific and recognizable ease that other presences, even pleasant ones, even comfortable ones, do not produce in quite the same form. Notice if the person who is staying in your awareness also produces this ease when you are in their actual presence, rather than only in the imagined presence of the thought of them that the staying generates in the moments between the actual encounters. If they do, that is the fullest available confirmation that this is the person and the relationship that is forming on the real and solid foundation of two people who are genuinely themselves in each other's presence, which is the foundation that the most sustaining relationships are built on. Who will arrive in the future and make the kind of impression that stays, though that is also possible. But the person who is already making that kind of impression in the awareness of someone who is paying attention to what is staying and what is passing in the field of who they notice and who they remember and who they find returning to their awareness without having deliberately brought them back. Now the preparation in the specific and practical form of what it looks like to prepare yourself for a relationship that is forming very soon with someone who is already in your awareness, in the staying form of someone who made a real impression. The first preparation is the preparation of your own availability in the specific and complete form of someone who's actually available for a relationship rather than someone who is. In one or more of the specific forms that partial availability takes when there is something in the interior that is occupying space, that the relationship needs to be able to occupy for it to form in the full version of what a relationship can be between two people who are both fully available to what is forming between them. What might be occupying space that the relationship needs old connection energy, the specific kind that is not fully resolved and that therefore continues to take up some portion of the interior space that new connection needs to have available for the new thing to fully occupy it, rather than only partially occupying the portion that is not already taken by the unresolved old thing. If there is old connection energy that has not been fully resolved in the specific and clear sense of having been acknowledged as past and completed and released into the category of something that was real and meaningful and is now complete, rather than ongoing in any form, that is still claiming space. In the interior world, do that work now, before the very soon arrives. And the new thing needs the full space, rather than only the partial space that the unfinished old thing is leaving available The second preparation is the preparation of your expectations in the specific and honest form of someone who has examined what they actually expect from a relationship and has made the distinction between the expectations that are real and appropriate and based on what they genuinely need from a connection in order to thrive within it, and the expectations that are inherited from other people's ideas of what a relationship should be, or from the romantic narratives that circulate in the culture around us and that are often more demanding or more specific or more concerned with the form of the relationship than with the actual quality of the connection between the two specific people who are forming it in their specific way, which is not always the cultural way or the inherited way, or the narrative way. Examine your expectations and keep the ones that are genuinely yours and that reflect what you actually need from a connection for it to be good for you and for you to be good for it, and release the ones that are not yours or that are not based on what you genuinely need, but on what you were told to want or on what the story said should be wanted by someone in your position at this point in their life, forming the kind of relationship the story said they should be forming in the form the story said it should take. The relationship that is forming between you and this person will take its own form, which is specific to the two of you and to what you are to each other and to what forms naturally between two specific people when both of them are fully present and both of them are being genuinely themselves in the contact they have with each other, rather than the performed versions of what they think the other person wants or needs them to be. Let the form be what it is, rather than what the story said it should be. And the relationship that forms will be more real and more sustaining and more the actual thing than any relationship formed to match the narrative rather than the actual people and the actual connection between them. And the third preparation, the one I want to say last, because it is the most fundamental and the one that underlies both of the others, and that makes both of them possible in the form that makes them useful as preparation. Know your worth in the specific and concrete form of someone who has done enough of their own work to have a clear and stable sense of what they bring to a connection and what they deserve from one that does not require the connection. To provide that sense by confirming it through the specific forms of validation that unstable self-worth is always seeking from the people it connects with. The most sustainable relationships are between two people who each arrive with a clear and stable sense of their own worth that they bring into the connection rather than seeking from it, and that makes the connection a place of shared experiencing rather than a place of mutual seeking of what neither person has yet found in themselves and is hoping the other person will provide, bring your worth with you into the very soon relationship as something you already have, rather than something you are hoping the relationship will give you, because it cannot give you what you need to bring. And the relationship that requires you to bring it, rather than providing it, is also the relationship that will be stronger and more sustaining and more the real and lasting thing that very soon is promising. I want to describe what the relationship is going to feel like when it has fully formed in the real and everyday dimension of two people who are in it, rather than approaching it or forming it as it is still in the process of becoming what it will be after the very soon has arrived and the relationship has settled into its natural form. It is going to feel like relief in the specific and embodied form of something finally being available that was not available before, and that was noticeable in its absence. Even when the absence was not always articulable as the specific thing that was missing from the ordinary texture of the days. Before its arrival, the relief will not announce itself dramatically as a single moment of sudden ease. After a long period of difficulty, it will arrive in the quieter form of things feeling more naturally navigable, in the ordinary way of someone who is no longer navigating alone, in the specific and functional sense of having a person who is genuinely present for the navigation, rather than the performed present of someone who is there but not fully there, in the way that fully there actually feels from inside the experience of having it. This person is going to be fully there in the way that very few people in very few connections actually are, when the daily ordinary requires the navigating that real partnership makes fundamentally different from the navigating that happens alone. However well the alone navigating has been managed in the period before the partnership was available. It is also going to feel like expansion, the specific and somewhat surprising form of finding that the presence of another person who is genuinely seeing you and genuinely choosing you and genuinely interested in what you are expands you, rather than constraining you in the way that some connections constrain the people within them by requiring the management of the other person's experience at the expense of the full expression of your own. This connection does not constrain, it expands, because both people within it are genuinely interested in the full expression of the other, rather than in the managed version. That would be more comfortable or convenient for the person doing the managing, rather than the person being managed into the smaller form that the management is producing. Full expression from both people in the specific and generous form of genuine mutual interest is what this relationship contains. And what makes it the real and lasting thing that the title is promising in the very soon form, that is already in motion toward the full and prepared version of you that the preparation produces with this person who is already in your awareness in the staying form that real people take when they have made a real impression. Prepare yourself. In the 3 specific ways I have described and meet the very soon with the full and prepared version of you that the relationship needs and deserves and will thrive in the presence of the very soon is coming. And you are more ready than you know for what it contains. Prepare yourself and trust the preparing to be sufficient for the relationship that is already in motion toward the fully prepared version of you that is now, as of this message, under active and intentional construction